Let's get you all the updates coming in from Ukraine. 40 days now that this war has raged on. And right now, if there was any hope of de-escalation with some progress in talks, that's not really being witnessed on the ground. Several cities, including Mariupol, the port city of Odessa, Bucha, close to Kyiv, continue to be under attack. 410 civilian bodies were found in the Kyiv region that was retaken from Russians. Ukraine has demanded crippling new sanctions on Russia from major Western powers over a massacre that's been reported in the now liberated town of Bucha, where 300 residents were killed reportedly by the Russian army. The Russian military also struck an oil processing plant and fuel depots around the strategic Black Sea port of Odessa. Russia has denied Ukraine's war crime allegations, calling it all fake news. As Putin's forces retreat from areas in the northern Ukraine region to neighboring Belarus, the Ukrainian military has maintained that its airborne forces have taken full control of the town of Pripyat, that's just outside the decommissioned Chernobyl nuclear power plant and the section of the border with Belarus. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has accused Russian forces of committing genocide in Ukraine. He's also said very clearly that citizens of Ukraine will not bow down to the policy of the Russian Federation. There's been nothing short of a massacre of genocide in the city of Bucha, which is close to Kyiv. Over 300 people reportedly have died. Horrifying images that have come in from Bucha. Viewer discretion is advised for our next report that's been filed by Gaurav Sawant.
We are currently inside Bucha, and the destruction that you see all around during the Russian occupation of this place is visible for all. Burnt vehicles, burnt malls, burnt homes, damaged and devastated in the fire and the artillery shelling, the rocket fire, the missile fire, and the destruction that's been caused to people and their homes. The Ukraine army is now coming into this area along with medical services and emergency services. They've recovered some bodies, and while the forensics and the post-mortem teams will carry out their job, but they've taken images. Several of these bodies, according to the Ukraine army, have their hands tied behind them, and they've been shot dead in cold blood in custody. Ukraine government says that this is a war crime and that they will hold Russia accountable for this, and several such bodies are littered on the streets of Bucha as we travel. India Today's team has traveled inside Bucha to get you an assessment of the ground situation nearing day 40 of this battle between Russia and Ukraine. While the Russian forces have retreated from Irpin and Bucha, it's only now that the army, the police, the medical services, the security services, they are entering this area, and this is completely abandoned. Not a soul in sight in this part of Bucha where we are right now. With us is Sasha, and Sasha is a resident of Bucha. Sasha, what happened here?
Так, я весь цей час, поки була війна, я проживала саме в Бучі. У нас є дачний райончик. Я проживалася там, де якраз недалеко проходили ці воєнні дії, коли стріляли, і наші, і їхні. Там дуже багато домівок розгромило, дуже багато. І навіть деякі дома згоріли. Це якраз, я проживаю там недалеко від Гостомеля. Гостомель взагалі, кажуть, там дуже багато, будинків постраждали, дуже багато. Аеропорт також. Нашу мрію вони розгромили. Наша мрія – це наш самоліт, наше достояння українське. Я б сюди прийшла, мені треба просто зв'язь, інтернет. Тут більш ніде нічого не ловить, тільки на цьому місці. Приходиться приходити сюди, дивитися,
The images here are horrifying. This is a residential block, and this has been shelled completely. Virtually every house shattered. People forced to live outside. Right now the temperature here is -2 It's snowing. It was raining a short while back, but people have nowhere to go. There is no electricity, there is no water, there is no gas. In fact, if you just come around, a few families that remain here, they're cooking their food out in the open, and we'll show you how they're surviving in this extreme cold. It's only now that the agencies have reached here, but this family, as you can see, they've got their pots outside and they're cooking a meal for them outside in the open, and yet the lady has a smile on her face in these difficult circumstances. How are you? Are you okay?
Ні, how are you? Ви мене спрашуєте, як звати, правильно я розумію? Люба. А ви мене зрозумієте, мою українську?
What are you making? What are you eating? So there's just some chicken and water. They're boiling it together. That's their only meal, because none of these houses have any power, nowhere to cook inside, no gas, and this cold. And what is actually heartbreaking in these images, we'll just walk. They live here, they eat here, and they've had nowhere else to go. So bad is the situation that Tatya has just buried her child who was killed in shelling right here. And she broke down as she explained that to me, that the child must be very cold inside. So she made a cup of tea, and she's put tea and her child's favorite chocolates on that grave that has been just dug here. And there are other graves that have been dug in this area after the shelling in Bucha. The situation here, extremely heartbreaking. The manner in which these people have survived close to 40 days of an intense Russian attack, and Ukraine armies fight back in this area. The burnt infantry combat vehicle, the burnt tanks and cars on this road and several roads around give you an idea of the kind of battles that have been fought in Bucha in the past 40 days. The Russian soldiers may have retreated, but for every inch of territory there was a fierce battle, with thousands of civilians unfortunately trapped in the crossfire. Now this burnt BMP, burnt infantry combat vehicle here, the burnt Lexus there, the burnt Mercedes behind that, show how pitched battles were fought inside the streets of Bucha. Burnt homes, an indication that civilians were caught in this deadly crossfire that took place in this area. Svetlana, what happened here? What happened in Bucha?
Пока все страшно. Пока
Стараемся как-то ожить от того, что здесь происходило. Происходило очень страшное. Даже словами это сложно очень описать. Очень страшно все было. Вы видите, там дома, все разрушено. По жилым домам полностью гатили и градами, и какими-то этими кассетными бомбами. И, в общем, дом у нас разрушен. Полностью все окна, снаряд прилетел в крышу. Вот. Все очень страшно. У соседей тоже в дом попал снаряд. Вот. Поэтому мы надеемся, мы верим, что наши збройні сили нас захистять. Вот. Так что, как-то так. Спасибо вам.
On the outskirts of Kyiv, en route Bucha, several burnt tanks and armored personal carriers show and indicate the kind of battles that have taken place in this area. Not one, not two, but multiple burnt tanks and APCs in this area. A fierce fight has taken place. The turret completely blown off the tank, the wheels completely destroyed. And this is happening not just in one area, but multiple such locations. If you come close, we'll show you. There's another tank here that lies destroyed. There are other tanks that have been completely destroyed in the attacks that have taken place on the outskirts of Bucha. There are several unexploded shells still lying in this area, and this is the first time as we report this that several agencies are on their way. Just look around. Government agencies are now on their way to Bucha to provide relief and help to those impacted by these battles. Whether it's the army that was holding ground here or emergency services who are now making their way in an attempt to bring back those who were trapped in the past 40 days of these fierce tank battles that took place in and around Irpin and Bucha on the outskirts of Kyiv in Ukraine. So after more than a month of intense shelling, Galina from Bucha is finally leaving on her cycle. How did you survive for 1 month, Galina?
I will live in a deep, можно сказать по-русски? Bunker, yes, we live in a deep bunker, and 3 weeks we sleep like gypsy.
Like gypsy, did you have food? Did you have water?
A little bit, but we survive, it's okay. Russian people not I'm sorry.
I can understand. She is nervous. I mean, imagine more than 3 weeks living in a bunker. Now she's leaving on a cycle.
It's my cycle.
It's your cycle, and with very bare.
It's my stuff, because I leave this apartment and I go now in my house.
So, how scared were you? What was it like when there was like boom, boom, shelling?
Boom, boom near my house, 3 meters.
Emergency vehicles, they're leaving in a rush, and soldiers are leaving this place. So you can imagine what life is like. It's snowing. It's very cold.
Yes. Too much tank go. BMP, I don't know.
Yes.
Very big.
So these were the kind of battles that were fought here. You stay safe, Galina from Bucha. The stench of rotting flesh, burnt bodies. This car, for example, as you can make out, an explosion took place very close by. There are shrapnel marks all over, and the shrapnel has also pierced the windscreen and killed those inside. A family, you can see bodies still inside this car after so many days, devastated, lying on the road. A man, a woman, a child, and there are bodies that are also lying on the roadside, those who were killed in the shelling in this area. And this place in Bucha perhaps witnessed very bad, very intense fighting and shelling from both sides. Russia trying to move towards Kyiv, the Ukrainian army trying to stall the advance, and the battlefield was here in Irpin and in Bucha. But today, finally, when agencies have come here after the Russians retreated towards Belarus and the Ukrainian forces have taken control of this area, it's only now that medical services are arriving here to retrieve these bodies, and there are a number of them lying on the roadside, in front of buildings, in ditches. The Ukrainian army says some of them have their hands tied behind them and they were killed in cold blood. Some others killed in shelling. With cameraman Lalit Mohan Joshi in Bucha, Ukraine, Gaurav Sawant for India.
Now, from Kyiv, the Russian troops have moved to the eastern part of Ukraine. That's where the war is centered right now. And Geeta Mohan filed a series of reports now from Horlivka in Donetsk. Here's what she found.
I'm here on a field artillery ammunition support vehicle, and Officer Alexei is my right to the front line. We are going there in just a bit from now to see what the situation is. This is beyond Gorlovka. They've taken the space, this entire place, which was Ukrainian territory. And now we'll see how fierce the fighting is at the border, the new front line between Ukraine and Donbass. With video journalist Satya Rautre, Geeta Mohan for India Today. We are here in Verkhneyarskaya. This is the front line. You can hear not so far away from here, action is ongoing. A fierce fight and assault, not just from the Russian side, but also a response from the Ukrainian side as well. But you can see over here the vehicles, armored vehicles, the artillery carriers, some of them destroyed, because look at the house, look
Look at the houses and the school over there completely destroyed. That school over there is absolutely destroyed. So that's the situation on the ground. But the Russian forces have taken control of this place, and the assault, the firing, shelling, bombing continues at the border, the new front line. With video journalist Satya Rautre, Geeta Mohan for India Today. This is in memory of the mass graves of soldiers, Soviet soldiers who laid down their lives in World War II. Today, the structure is absolutely destroyed because of the shelling and the bombing that took place over here in Verkhntrayaska village. And the officers over here are showing us around, saying that how it is this very land that fought against the Nazis, that fought the Germans, and it was Soviet Union that played a huge role. These are the soldiers who were honored here in this very village, which is just ahead of Gorlovka, but today completely destroyed because this is the new front line. With video journalist Satya Rautre, Geeta Mohan for India Today.